All right. Hello, folks, and welcome to episode number 5 of working on the Song Themes app.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome.
And so today, I don't think we know what we're doing. So yesterday we got to a good place. We did some good refactoring. We did some actually quite a bit of refactoring, quite a bit of prepare refactoring. We tried out some different implementations for searching for songs by their theme. And I think today, why don't we put up the list and see what's up there?
Okay.
So yeah, so we did all that stuff. Can we check off number 7?
Song search. Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah. Hey, Full Nuffle, welcome. So yeah, so we can find multiple songs that match a single theme, and I can track songs that have different themes. So we were refining our language a bit. And I think the only unchecked checkbox, the only open Jira we have is 21. So maybe
And whether
we
that
should work on that.
should we work on that, or do you think we should think about what else we need to do next and then decide if that's next?
Um,
I'm actually not sure what else we could work on next. That's I
I
would have
think we
to like
should. I
go
think
and
we.
look.
I mean, I think I like to have full top to bottom, outside in, complete before I start thinking about other features, like for
Gotcha.
example, searching on multiple themes at a time, or
So
starting
then
to
this
think about
one
persistence, that stuff. Yeah.
checkbox wouldn't
Mhm.
be sufficient then. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
It's a start. Yeah, it's not. It's
Yeah,
certainly not enough, right?
right. Should we add one more at least,
Um,
or you want to go and do it first?
let's go and do it. I have a feeling it's going to be mostly HTML template work
Mm,
for because we've put in the model the single song, basically any songs that match,
right.
as well as no results, and so it'd be nice to actually see that in the HTML. Hey there, M. Lali Sai, or C. Welcome. And Astrid, nice to see you. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
So
So sounds
this
good.
is, yeah. So I have to say I am very rusty. Not rusty. I don't know how or if we want to write tests for this.
That was
Because I'm honestly a bit rusty on that. So we can figure it out, or we can wait for some of that testing, and I can do a little bit more preparation.
yeah, I was wondering about that too, about testing.
Mohammed, no worries. Yeah, usernames are always interesting. Let's put it that way. I'm glad you made it out of dependency hell, Astrid. That's not a fun place to be.
Oh
I've been
man,
there,
so sorry.
done that.
Hated it.
Yeah. So what do you think? Should we just? I mean, certainly the first one with no results, we can. So one of the things I think about when sort of think about the UI and testing is like, how easy is it to sort of manually test, and
Right.
how sure am I that, or how confident am I that stuff generally won't break? And so one of the things I found when doing Ensembler is I had logic in the template. So you can put logic in templates. You can have sort of if statements and switch
Right.
blocks, and that's terrible. And I don't know what I was thinking, but it meant that I ended up having quite a bit of what's essentially code in my
Logic.
template, and that's just bad because I didn't have any good ways to test it.
Yeah,
Um,
kind of remember I think Fowler had what was it called? The presentation model
Mhm.
approach, where you separate out any UI logic
Yes.
into a testable entity
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
thing. I don't want to say entity because I don't mean database. Um, and the UI is just blindly just doing stuff based on that.
Yeah, and so one of the big refactorings that I did for Ensembler recently when I was adding the spectator feature was pushing all of the decision making about what to show, what not to show, what buttons were, whether buttons were disabled or not, what the text of the buttons were. All of that was pushed into actual real code as opposed to pseudo, not pseudocode, but like not quite. I mean, it's code, but it shouldn't be. You shouldn't have code and templates. The templates should just be mapping, right? They should just be, and doing very little mapping at that. Like they should be almost exclusively about presentation. And if they are almost exclusively about presentation, and because we're going to be using Thymeleaf, which means we can preview the template in a useful way, I generally don't think much about testing that stuff.
Yeah.
So at least to start, I think we can avoid that, and we can revisit that decision later on.
Sounds good. Hope you don't mind me typing.
No, that's great.
I like to sort of blurt it out. I'm actually hoping maybe it's useful for folks who are watching too. Cool. Well, I have even.
So Philadelphia asks, can you use end-to-end testing tools? We could. Probably what I would use in this case is HTML unit, because that's exactly what it's for. But again, we're going to skip on that for now.
I'm like your own personal translator. Interpreter, excuse me.
Yes.
I can't believe I got that wrong.
Let's see.
Since my partner is an interpreter, and I know the difference between interpreting and translation. So I was starting to say, I know, well, you were saying, HTML testing, not your bailiwick. Thymeleaf is not my bailiwick.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be an interesting adventure. Looking forward to it. So
yeah, for this stuff, it'll be relatively straightforward because we're not going to be using much other than Thymeleaf's insert text from model here. And if you put aside all of the other stuff, it's pretty much just replace this text with text that's coming from the model.
got it.
Otherwise, it's an HTML file.
The other thing that might be something that could be interesting that we do today is we haven't pushed to production yet. And I know we talked about this 2 sessions back. And we talked a little bit offline, but I'm thinking at first I'd like to do push to production, but have a feature flag where users can't see it. People that navigate to that site don't see the UI. But if maybe we could have some sort of feature flag where we can see it. Doesn't have to be sophisticated, like, from it coming from a certain IP address, but it could just be no magic incantation, right? Like, I don't know.
So
Slash.
security through obscurity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Security through obscurity, like that.
I mean, the problem with that is if we do that on stream, then it's no longer obscure.
Yeah, but I don't know.
So
it's really just.
I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just put, we could just put we could put it at an endpoint that is not linkable from the homepage, which is actually what we have now.
Right.
It's not linkable. The homepage is completely divorced from everything else, and the controller that does the search you have to know the link. So already it's security through obscurity.
Yeah. I'm going to call that phrase of the day: security.
So Fulnalpha says, sometimes it's simple to put logic in the UI, and I've seen that in many projects. What's the argument to not use logic in the UI? The logic to not use logic in the UI, and by logic we mean you're testing an expression, an if statement, a switch block, something like that. If you're doing that in the UI, you now have logic that you need to test. So the downside is you now have to test that manually or hopefully in an automated fashion.
And
Um,
oh,
yeah.
sorry. And the disadvantage of an automated fashion is those high-level UI tests are the most brittle of all the tests you can write. And so,
Yeah, and so then you need to design your UI, depending on what you're doing in your UI, is you want to then at least separate the logic from the actual presentation, even if you're doing it on the front end. So if you're doing React or Vue or one of the frameworks, you want to make sure that you've properly separated the logic part, the decision making, from the presentation. And so that way you don't have to test through the brittle actual UI. That is bad. You don't want to drive the browser, except for maybe some sanity tests, but you don't want to do a lot with that. The advantage, at least for Spring Boot with Thymeleaf, or any server-side generated code, is if the server generates all the information, then the front end is only presentation, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to basically just have presentation. And so there may be some cases where you have to do you still have to do a little bit of logic. So for example, we're probably going to have to do a tiny piece of logic, which is if there are no results, we'll show this. If there are results, we show the results. So I don't think there's any way you can get away from that other than having two completely different pages. One which is showing no results and the other which is showing results. And you could do that. And then you have no logic. Then the logic is 100% on the back end deciding which page to present. And now that I say that, I think I actually like that better. Because then you're really, the page does what it does. It says, I'm supposed to show no results. I will show the page with no results. Who decides that that page gets shown? That's the back end. So if it's all in the back end, then it's so much easier to test. I don't think it's necessarily hard. So the difficulty of this depends on how complex your UI is. And I think really thinking about all the decision making, can I let the back end decide this? Right? Like what I just said is exactly that. It's like, instead of having the page alternate between two things depending on some information coming from the back end, show completely two different pages.
I can imagine, Ted, that if in certain teams where, again, not an advisable team structure, but if there is a team structure where there's a UI team and a back end team, now you're going to have challenges with convincing the UI team to work in that fashion.
Yeah, and
I could see,
that's a
or they
non and that
dictate things,
yeah, and
right?
that's going to be a non-starter, and that's how Conway's law. You end up with the structure of a front-end complex application and a back-end complex, and the two don't talk to each other as well as they could if they were all on one team. Yeah,
That's why when we ever were doing consulting, it's always immediately one of the first things you say to managers is like, you can't have two separate teams for
yeah,
front
yeah,
end and back end. They have to be one team.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And
I did,
and
oh,
this idea of pushing of going away from complex front ends, I'm hoping is a pendulum that's swinging back. That's my hope. So HTMX is one way to provide more interactivity on the page without pulling in a very complex framework. And I know people say, well, React's not a framework, it's a library. It's like, yes, but the way most people use it, it's a framework. And the main issue is the complexity and the immense amount of logic that's often not well tested on the front end. So, hey, Suiji, welcome.
for some reason, I can't post to the comment section. I did throw on in our Jira line 25 that link. I also have to send it to you privately if you want to.
Oh, the reason why is because it's my stream. You can't post links through YouTube. YouTube suppresses the links.
Oh, really?
Yes, which is very annoying, and that's why I don't like YouTube's chat. So this was the link that Mike posted. I don't know why that opens in a new tab was there. Sorry about that. That was weird. I'll blame StreamYard for that.
Oh, the opens in a new tab. That's interesting. It appended that
I don't know.
with no space.
I'll post that again. Yeah, so that's the presentation model pattern that we were mentioning. It's really interesting how I know I take for granted a lot of stuff in that book, Patterns of Enterprise Application Architecture. Some of it I think is now considered sort of obsolete or not current practice. But there's so much good stuff in there, as is usual for Fowler's stuff. POEAA is the title. Patterns of Enterprise Application Architecture. That's where things like repository and data transfer object and other stuff we take for granted. All right.
Shall we do it?
Should we do it?
I'm up for it. So we're going to work on Jira 21.
Yes. We probably want to have if you really want to add another check another Jira, we can have one that now that shows matching results. So Lifecoin says, I feel like the Fowler patterns are more important to know than the Goff patterns. I think that's probably true for most people, especially since of the 23 Goff patterns, I don't know that I use more than 5 or 6. Adapter, strategy, maybe decorator. All right. So let's work on Jira 21.
I guess if you were implementing undo, you'd use command, but not many people are actually implementing undo that frequently.
Well, command does come in handy with event sourcing.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Yes, luckily we are allowed to read whatever we want. Unfortunately, nobody does read Getting a 4 book or POEAA in their original forms. They read reinterpretations and misinterpretations. So I would love it if people read the originals. All right, do we have a template at all? What have we got in our resources templates? So we do. Okay. And what does it look like? It looks empty. Awesome. So what we're going to need to do is turn it into a Thymeleaf template. So let's do that.
I will need more direct instructions.
Yes, I am going to give you
go from high level intention to
so the first thing we're going to need to do is add to the HTML tag on line 2, stick a new line before the closing bracket. And then now in 2.5, what we're going to do is we're going to add the namespace, the XML namespace. So it's XMLNS, and then colon, and then TH. And so what this does is it tells the browser and other things that are interpreting the document that anything started with the TH is in this namespace. It's technically not required, I think, but it's always a good idea to have it. And so we're going to assign it the value, so it's going to be equals, and then in double quotes, it's going to be http://www.thymeleaf.org. And that's it.
this is a tangent. And tell me if I should just not do the tangent.
No, we're here for
I often
tangents.
so some websites still default to www dot domain dot com or whatever,
Right.
and others don't. Is there any particular I mean, for me, www dot just seems so 1992. Um, and I just like, why do folks still do that for their websites? Is there some technical reason?
Yes, there is a technical reason. So DNS which is a fascinating area because it underpins our entire internet. Um, and if you run into a problem, usually it's the DNS, is the old saying. But also tangent on that tangent. I always thought it was I remember when they were sort of the possibility that web dot instead of www could be the prefix. And I thought it was the stupidest thing to take the letters in the English language that are the most number of syllables. W, right?
Oh my God.
Three syllables for each letter. So now you have 9 syllables to pronounce it, as opposed to web, which is 1 syllable. But they chose www. Or that was what came out. And so the technical reason is that the domain name, so thymeleaf.org, for example, you have to do some special stuff that not all DNS servers and not all DNS setups support in order to basically give you the IP address of where you're going to go and fetch your and basically send your HTTP requests. So there are probably some servers out there where you can't set that up, or your DNS registrar can't. Whoever's providing your DNS doesn't have the ability to set that up. These days, most modern places where you're getting any kind of hosting will make that relatively straightforward and sort of do that behind the scenes. But it is a bit tricky because you have to do some CNAME, and there's like there are articles written about this particular thing, so it's not just random. But luckily, it's relatively straightforward in the modern internet, and people who are doing it either don't know or how to do it, or it's not supported, but easily supported by their DNS provider.
Yeah, I know that websites certainly have a redirect, right? Where it's like if you type in
Right,
www.thymeleaf.org, it
right,
just goes to thymeleaf.org.
that's pretty common because you still want to support that, but
Right.
if you don't, but you don't want people to bookmark it or land there. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for the yak shave.
We're all about the tangents and such here.
Yeah.
Pierre's book was published in 2002, which means it's 20-year-old. If you're going to read one book, either POEA or refactoring, read refactoring. Absolutely 100%. If you can only read one, read the refactoring book. The enterprise application architecture patterns book, I think it's still useful to read, though you're going to have to keep in mind that there is some stuff that's no longer common, good current practice. But I certainly think it's still valuable to read, and that leads me to a little bit of a rant, which is just because a book is 20 years old in computers does not mean it's obsolete.
Yeah.
Yes, if it's a book on Spring, 20-year-old book is not going to help you. But if it's a book on more fundamental and especially patterns, it's likely that it's going to be a lot more relevant. Some of it will fade, right? Like I don't know anybody who really uses the bridge pattern much anymore, except in very specific cases of probably writing some frameworks. But we use strategy, we use adapter, we use factory methods, and there are more than just the 23 gang of 4 patterns, right? There's hundreds of other patterns that are also useful. And this book of patterns is an additional set of patterns. So patterns are generally longer lived and still useful. And it doesn't matter. And the original refactoring book is 25 years old. And it's still super valuable. Almost everything in that book applies, other than the dated Java syntax, but the refactoring still apply.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is I haven't actually read the new version of the refactoring book where Fowler changed it all to JavaScript.
Right.
I'm sure there's some learnings in there about, since the first version of the book.
Yeah.
Which book would you recommend folks read? The Java
Um,
one or the Java one that's 25 years old, or the JavaScript one that's maybe a
um,
few years old?
I would probably read the so both. I'd probably read the narrative of the newer one because I think the narrative is much better. But I personally don't like that he changed some of the names of the patterns to sort of more match JavaScript. So it's some of the names that the renames are fine, but a lot of them are like from method to function. And like to me, everything's a method. Like I know JavaScript, it's called functions, but I like the word method because I'm in Java. So, but either is fine. I mean, it's probably difficult for most people to get a hold of the 25-year-old one. I happen to have several copies, but if you're on O'Reilly's learning platform, do you have access to both? And to me, I think I wish I got a commission, but I think it's well worth the cost if you're doing any kind of reading to get a subscription to that, because then you just get all the books and you can dip in and out and read chapters from different books without having to buy the whole book, which is a good way to consume them.
That's a good, if you're working for a company versus working solo, it's highly recommended.
Yeah.
Try to convince your manager, director of engineering, CTO to get it for the whole company, because it's super valuable.
Yeah. And there are companies that I know that already do that. And so if your company does it, make sure you take advantage of it, because
It's pretty epic.
lots of good stuff there. Hey, Beltaloda, welcome. All right, so we got our namespace. Let's go. We can keep our title, that's fine. And let's see, what do we want to show? Why don't we close the project window and let's open up the controller at the bottom. So we've got, what are we going to end up with? We're going to end in the model. So we've got empty search results. So let's just create a part of the page that just shows the value of that attribute.
Got it.
So 10.5, let's add an H2, and inside that H2,
in the tag or in the?
Oh yeah, right where you are is fine. So th:\text. And so that's going to, so what this does is it says replace at runtime, when we generate the page, replace what's inside the H2 tag, which will type something, a placeholder. That gets replaced at runtime with the value of this expression that we're going to write. And so the value of this expression, so it uses the $ curly brace pattern. So $ open and close curly brace. And then inside that is basically the name of the attribute, which you have in your clipboard. And so here you can write placeholder. And what's nice, so this is one of the advantages that I think, as problematic as some aspects of Thymeleaf are, that it still is for me the de facto view engine for applications, is because you can preview this page and it's just HTML. There are some newer templating tools that move away from this, and I don't know why they do that, because this is, to me, such a valuable thing. So if you hover, and this is the thing I dislike in general, is hover. So if you see the stuff in the upper right, see that, those little four browsers?
Oh,
yeah, they hover. So if you click on one of those, don't click on that one. Don't click on that one. Let's click on the leftmost one, which is IntelliJ. So this will basically open up a browser inside IntelliJ and preview this page. So go ahead and click on it. Yes, got it.
Got it.
And so we can see the preview, right? We got the H1 and we got the placeholder text. And so this is possible because it's an HTML page. At runtime, it will obviously look different because the placeholder text will be replaced. But what this allows you to do is it allows you to design your page and see what it looks like without having to constantly run it through the server to see what it looks like, which is what you have to do with like JSP and Velocity and Mustache and all the other template engines, because they're not HTML.
Right. Sweet. Now, if we had stuff on this page that was using static resources like images and so forth, would this preview pull them in?
Yeah.
It would. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's an embedded browser window, but you could launch it in Chrome, and the same thing would work. What ends up happening is IntelliJ ends up running a little web server because IntelliJ has everything inside of it, except email. Sorry. So that looks fine. We can go ahead and run that and see what happens. Yeah, you can close the preview. So let's run the application.
What is it?
So Shift F10 to run it.
Oh, I thought I was running it. Yeah.
This is a common thing.
Yeah.
Selecting the configuration does not run it.
Right.
And that's why I don't use that dropdown. I use the pop-up because then it will run it when you select it.
Got it.
And it'll run on localhost 8080. And so we need to make sure we go to the right specific path, which I don't remember what it was.
Me too.
The bottom window. Scroll up. No, not that. It's the theme search. So /theme-search.
What? Interesting. The Control
W.
There we go. It worked that time. For some reason, it was starting to go outside the.
So be careful. You have.
Oh yeah, double switches. Yeah.
Which is technically not allowed.
Clearly.
And as a security violation, can be a security violation. Okay. So we didn't. This is not unexpected. We didn't have the parameter, so let's add the parameter. So put a question mark at the end, and then add that requested theme equals.
Where is it?
It's not going to be in there. It's going to be up in the request param.
Oh.
And then equals, and you can just say foo or something. So it's true.
Sweet.
We win.
It's empty.
It is empty. Did we actually add in our startup? I think we added a song. What did we add? And that would be in the application class.
This one? Song theme application?
Yeah. So let's do a search for New Year's, and then that should be false. Yes, absolutely. It should fail gracefully. We have not added that functionality.
Yeah.
We don't have a test for that.
So what I'm going to search for New Year's on the.
Yep.
Quotes?
Nope, just leave it. It'll URL encode the space for you.
Oh, I see. You did that.
Hey, it's false.
Hey,
awesome.
Cool.
So this is our manual test. And so therefore we have proven that the template is showing the actual value for our empty results. So you may have missed it, DMcGill 50. We're not writing HTML tests. So that's why we're testing it manually, because the template, we just want it to show what is ever in the model and assume that the model is correct because we have tests for the model. And so since this is Java, we're basically using JUnit. But we're not, as I mentioned, we're not using HTML unit or anything like that. Have we run the tests lately? No, we haven't run them today, but we did run them at the end of yesterday. We could run all our tests if we wanted to, but thank you for asking about did we run our tests?
And it's cheap to run them, except for the
Yeah, except for the
ones with
MVC
IO.
tests. Yeah.
Yeah,
So all our tests are passing. So,
sweet.
and so since we've manually tested, I think we can close Jira 21.
Woohoo! And now we want to show results for real instead of just.
Well, actually, we might have prematurely closed it. So we might have had a conversation with our customer and said, I don't want to see true or false.
Good point.
And so now we have to
Who's your
reopen our
customer?
Jira. Um, but we could do a commit here and just say we've yes. We could do a commit here because we have minimal in a sense we've done our it's passed our manual test of showing the attribute.
Model attribute. What do you
So
think?
I would say see
I don't like it
the
what I wrote, but
so we able to see the results attribute, the empty search results attribute.
yeah, that's better. Using the language of the business domain, not the computer engineered domain.
Right. All right. Let's
Okay,
commit
ship
that.
it. Cool.
And now let's make the page a little bit nicer. So let's go back to the HTML. So here's where we could make it a little bit easier on ourselves by putting whether the search results are no, I don't even want to do that. I want to have different pages. So let's make this page the no songs found page, the empty search results page.
So you mean
So
like say, sorry, keep going.
So if we're going to do that, and we're going to return different values for our get mapping, we're going to need to write a test because we're changing behavior.
Right.
So let's go to our controller test. And then let's look at our controller at the bottom. And so what we want to do is we want to write a test for this method. If there are no results, we want to return a template that has the name. So I think we're already checking for so search results returns models with non-empty search results. Right. So the one test above it tests is the one where the search results are empty. So if you bring the one on 35 in view. Yeah. So
Keep going.
Yeah. So search result returns model with empty search result. So I think we can update this to say not just, in fact, to a certain extent, do we even need this in the model at all? If we're going to show two different pages, then this is irrelevant. But let's sort of do that as a parallel change. So let's additionally assert that theme search, and so we're going to have to hold on to the value on line 34. So let's assign 34 to a variable. Yeah, so we're not pushing to production yet because our customer hasn't figured out how we want to do that just yet. We'll do that. We'll do that soon.
Yep.
I like how it shows Christmas as the value.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
We want basically this is going to be the, what do we call it? Template name.
Template name?
Yep. So let's write one that passes, and then we'll make it fail, and then we'll fix the code.
Okay.
So
Passes.
yeah,
It's an
because
unusual pattern.
we're basically just ratcheting up the assert to
Ah,
match the existing behavior. So we're sort of backfilling an assertion. This is how I
gotcha.
talk about it. Yeah, so we'll assert that the template name is equal to theme search results. It'll be theme dash search dash results. So that should still pass. We can run just the IO free tests. Do you want to learn the pop-up run
Oh, sure.
shortcut?
I was doing Shift F10 on that one, but
So
fire
Shift
away.
F10 runs the current configuration, but if you want to
Right.
both select and run,
Okay.
it is Alt Shift F10.
Alt Shift. Interesting combo.
So now you can
Ah.
select, and if you select and hit enter, it will run it. So to me, I don't use anything else because why would I?
Do
It's
you
one.
always use it even though you've got the current config
If the
you
current
want?
one matches, I'll probably just hit Shift F10 or Control R. But pretty frequently, I'll use the Alt Shift F10.
And that's called the run config. Cool.
All right,
Okay.
our
Pass.
test passes. Great. Now, now let's make it fail. So we'll want a different template name. Open to suggestions on what to call it. We can call it empty search results. We can call it
No search results?
theme search with no
Oh,
results.
yeah, I
It's
see.
basically going to be whatever we want, and it'll become this file name.
Right. Is there value in having, as far as using these templates, theme search hyphen blah, blah being like, no results from a sorting perspective?
Um,
I'm not jumping out at me one way or the other.
I think theme dash search dash no dash results is probably good. So we
Okay.
can, and we'll basically just copy that file later, but we're not going to do that now
Ah,
because we want a failing test.
right.
So oh yeah, there is a way. There's Infinitest is a plugin that basically does that. And there
Right.
is an IntelliJ added something recently. I don't know if it's quite that. I have to go look at it. I haven't explored that yet. There is a way to also do that. Of course, what causes your code to be compiled? Does it happen automatically? So Infinitest, what it does is when it sees changes in the code, then it kicks off the tests. I'd like to try that plugin again. I turned it off for a while. I'm not sure why. I think there was something that wasn't quite working right. But we can try that. I think I even have it installed and just turned off. Yes, it's not a unique idea.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw it was maybe 10 years ago,
Yeah,
where what's his
so
name? Actually, it was
yeah.
probably the same conference we were at, the one in San Jose, where Llewellyn
Mm,
was. I can't remember the talk he gave, but he basically had it set up that every time he hit Control S to save the file, it automatically kick off a
right.
compile and run every time. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, I remember seeing it as an Eclipse thing that would do that all the time, because Eclipse, you'd have to be more explicit about sort of saving, and every time you saved, it would build and run the tests. And Infinitest is a plugin that's been around, maybe not under the same owners as it were, but it's been around for a very long time.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's the thing. That's the one. Thank you, Astrid. It'll automatically rerun. I haven't tried that out. I have to see if it sort of fits my flow. So we'll check that out. This is the Infinite Test plugin. So we can try both out.
Have a compare and contrast session.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So we
New
decided
test.
on our name. So let's go make our test fail.
The same test, which
Yes.
was
Yep.
this one.
So this is one of those less known about TDD things, which is you don't always write a new failing test. Sometimes you modify an existing test because you want different behavior. And so here we want different behavior. We want it to be this template name. If we run it, it should fail because it's not going to return that one. Let's go ahead and run it.
Is there a name for that kind of sort of incrementally ratcheting up a TDD style test? Is it, in other words, when you're sort of modifying an existing test, is there a common name for that?
I don't know. There should be. And when we say in the TDD write a failing test, people assume that means new, but we never said new. But I don't know that I'm pretty sure we're not explicit enough. And by we, the people who talk about and write about TDD are not explicit enough about it does not have to be a new test.
New
It can
test,
be
yeah.
an existing test where you want something different. A modified test is a new test. Now we're getting philosophical. Because I'm going to argue, Theseus' ship, where it's like it's the same test, even though it's been modified and no longer looks like it's original. So it's like if I have a hammer and I replace the head, and then later I replace the handle, is it the same hammer? So now we're getting to philosophy. So let's not get into philosophy. And absolutely, it is recommended to discard tests if they are no longer providing any value. Deleting tests and figuring out which ones to delete is sometimes difficult, but definitely tests do not have to live forever.
Okay, failing tests. You want to see
Test
the
fail for
results?
the right reason.
Yep.
Let's do this though. Let's we don't need, we know how to fail, so we're good. Let's do the simplest thing that could possibly work. So what's the simplest thing that could make that test pass?
In the current controller. The absolute simplest would break other tests.
Well, do we know that?
We don't know, so let's
We don't
check.
know. So
Good
let's do it.
point.
Yeah.
So let's just do that and
So
rerun the test.
I don't think we're checking for this anywhere else.
No.
Even if I was though, I would do it this way because I actually want another test to fail.
Right, because if it doesn't, then that means we're missing a test.
Exactly.
Bingo.
Or if not a test, we are missing an assertion.
Yeah. Right. Love it. Okay, firing off the test.
Yes. Oh, good. We did test for it. That's awesome.
Is it a different test?
Yes. Yeah, let's jump to it. So search result returns search results view. Yeah. So we did test for it. Awesome.
Cool. And we haven't written a test for no. So, oh, we did right here.
That's the one we just modified. So
Right.
that's good. So and this is something, that especially when you have a lot more tests than we have, I always tend to do is, and this is why I like doing the simplest thing, because it would have been very natural to just immediately jump to, if there were no results, return this view name, otherwise return this template name. And we might want to make our names more consistent I use template name, but technically it's the view name. So, but that idea of let's just change it, and if nothing else fails, then we find out that we are missing some assertions. But luckily we're not. So let's rename template name to view name up there on 34. Yeah, flappy or flaky tests are the worst, and I basically either get them to work or delete them because they're not serving any purpose other than to annoy people. Yes. It's like it's twisting their arm to get them to write it, and then it's like, no, you can delete this. It's like, no, darn it, I spent a lot of effort to write this. I'm keeping this around, even though it's not providing any value anymore.
Deleting in general is one of our challenges as software
Yes.
engineers.
Loss aversion is a cognitive bias.
Yeah.
So clearly the simplest thing that could possibly work did not suffice. So let's go back to our code. And since returning a hard-coded value is not going to work to suffice for both tests, let's put some logic around it. So you want a shortcut to make that easier?
Sure.
So if you do a Control-Alt-T, wait, you're missing a semicolon. Can you put the semicolon back? Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the thing that we're going to basically wrap with an if block, because that's what we're going to do, right? We're going to wrap the return value with an if block. So just put it somewhere on that line. And now if you do Control-Alt-T, now you can say surround with, and we're going to do an if else. Even though technically we could do a mapping, but we'll do an if else. And so it basically wrapped it, put it in the if block, put all the braces in the right place, and lets you start typing. So if found songs is empty, yep. And then let's fill in our else. And we think that this will work. At least I think this will work.
I think it will too. Whoop. Something failed.
I wonder if our test was broken. So I noticed this before. This test looked weird. And now we've proven that this test is weird. So this test was an initial test, and we need to fix it.
Right. Let me see if I can figure out what's broken with it. Okay, we're getting a new song search with one song. We're asking for a theme search of nothing.
Right.
That's kind of weird.
Yes. So initially we did this to basically just say, if we call this controller method, we should get a theme search results view.
Right.
But now that view is depending on both what the song is in the searcher, so what we're configuring in our setup, and what we're asking for right there in our theme search.
And we don't want applesauce. We want, which
well,
means we're going to have to
yes,
inline this.
So we need to inline it because we now require that detail.
Yeah. It's only got one occurrence. Inline the whole thing.
Yeah, if it's only one occurrence, let's just inline it. So the Big Cheese asks, advice book on TDD besides TDD in action by Kent Beck. So it's actually TDD by example by Kent Beck. It's a fine book, but it's not enough. Growing object-oriented software guided by tests is useful, but it does have a different flavor of testing. But I think it's an excellent book. There is a newer TDD book that I do recommend, and I'll dig up the name. I've been skimming through it to see if it's something I can recommend, and I think it is. So, do you want to make
What about
that
I
fold a
guess
little
it's not
bit better?
TDD. I was thinking about the book that's like a brick.
You mean the test patterns, the X unit test patterns?
Yeah, what is it, Gerard?
Gerard
No.
Mazaros,
Yes. That one's not
great
really
book.
about TDD, but
It's not about TDD. It's about, but it is in my mind, it's a prerequisite to TDD because it tells you how to write good tests.
yeah.
However, it is a brick. It's a 900-page book, and it's an excellent book, but nobody's going to read it. So this is true. So Live Coding says learning by example is the best way. Learning by example and learning by doing, especially, is the only way we learn. Reading and watching can inform you, but that's not learning how to do it. You have to do it. And this is where testing kata is basically little applications that guide you down a certain direction. Now, some people love FizzBuzz. Steve Quoes is one of those folks who just loves it. I hate it with a passion. And the reason why is it is just too simple. And even if you're learning TDD for the first time, I think it also promotes this idea where it's very sort of technically oriented. It ends up being very technical. But I would say try it out, see if you like it. If you don't like it, there are other good examples like the expense report kata. But honestly, it start with just something simple. Follow some tutorials, do it, but you have to do it. That is the most important thing, is you must actually do it hands-on keyboard. It's best if you do it, if you can, with others, even if they don't know anything more than you. Learning with others, learning is social. And so that's a better way to learn. Fizz was at a job interview. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, the Roman numerals one is also a very simple one. That one I think I like a little bit better. There's just something about FizzBuzz I really don't like. I don't
I
know.
mean, FizzBuzz is screamingly non-object oriented.
Yeah,
I mean, you could
and maybe,
force it, but
yeah, and maybe that's why is it's like, because there's almost no code where I feel like I'm doing code like that. So, all right. Do we want to format that line a little bit nicer?
yes.
You, if you want, you could pull song out into a variable. Otherwise, just add some new lines either way.
Well, we're gonna need. You mean as far as that goes?
No, I was thinking the whole song
Oh, the whole
object.
song. Right. Yeah, let's do that. I can't even see it though, so I want to do this.
Oh, I just trust.
You
Because if
can
you do
trust
that,
Control W.
I don't even do Control W. I just trust the control.
Oh, that inline.
Control V.
Right. So,
Control Alt.
yeah, working on it. Don't tell me.
V for variable.
Yep. Oh,
So
yeah.
Control Alt is almost always going to be your refactoring meta keys. Control
Right.
Alt V, Control Alt P, Control Alt M, Control Alt N, Control Alt C.
I was trying to remember the V part. I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
V,
it's
so N inline, V variable, M method. Yeah. And I know it, and I trust it because I know it's going to select the right expression. And if there's multiple expressions, it will offer those. And that's why I don't even need to see the whole line. All right.
I still think it's too long of a line.
So what you just did,
Right. I
use
could have
Control
done this.
Shift, so undo it and do the join lines.
You think do join lines versus just reformat, or would reformat it
No,
keep it?
not reformat. You want to join lines.
Because it's going to do the.
Because it's going to take away, it's going to join them correctly.
Oh, I thought I wrote it down.
Control
Oh
Shift
yeah,
J.
Control Shift J. Yep.
Yeah. Because I see folks constantly do what you did, is
Right.
like backspace, and then now, depending on the indent, you might have to delete a whole bunch of space. And
you can get it wrong.
And you can get it wrong. And when concatenation's involved, the IntelliJ IDEA will actually do the right thing.
If we were doing side-by-side windows, I'd think that line was even too long.
I would agree. Yeah, but since we're top bottom, we're okay.
Yeah.
So now we'd like to fix this. We'd like to search for something that will be found.
So now I would, yeah. Oh, I did it. I almost put the variable, or songs. Never mind. I almost extracted to another variable, and I'm like, no, no, no. You want to be able to visually see.
Yeah, and to me, that's just a preference. So if somebody said, "Hey, my preference is I want to pull out theme into a variable, and use that," I would be totally fine with that, as long
The advantage of it,
as long as you're consistent.
oh no, I don't want to do that. Yeah, the advantage of it would then make you could then do that.
And I'd
Right.
be
So
fine
now
with that.
it's named, right?
Mhm.
So you know what the first is.
Yeah, and then you could take the old lang syne and basically make that
I
just
don't care.
irrelevant.
Yeah. Would you do a constant?
No, I'd actually put the text irrelevant song name, because if you turn to a constant, then it looks like it's still important.
I see what you mean.
No, I wouldn't. That's not
Is that
what.
what you
Sorry,
mean?
that's not what I meant.
Maybe I just
I meant
misunderstood.
actually delete
Oh, the
all lang
text.
syne and say
Ah,
irrelevant song title.
got it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that. That's more clear.
yeah. So
Yeah,
the
the
only
screaming caps.
so the only downside, and this is why my preference is the other way, is the way IntelliJ colors things. So colors strings green. On line 23, the theme doesn't stand out. It's just another variable.
Hmm.
Whereas if that was a string, it would stand out because it's green. And so I think that's why my preference is to use the concrete string itself as opposed to a variable.
Works for me.
But again, it's my preference. It's not something I say you should do it this way, although I don't say you should very much at all, or try not to.
I say it too much, and I need to wean myself from saying
Yeah,
it.
I'm sure I
Should,
do as
could,
well.
would, shoulda, coulda, woulda.
So we think this will work.
Let's see. Yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
All right. I think we need to update the method name to make it a little clearer that it's returning basically that it found songs.
Which returns found search results.
I think we've been using matching, maybe.
I think we have. And view.
Yes, because that's what we're testing. We're testing that that's the correct view.
Right. So we probably should.
So do we want to rename the view itself? Should it be theme search found results, or themes
Line number.
or
Where are you looking at?
so 25? Does that indicate that it actually has found results? Is that sufficient?
I would think it's sufficient, but what were you
Okay.
thinking?
I was just thinking adding the word has,
Oh,
but
yeah, I'm
that's
cool.
I don't know that that's necessary. If it's I was just thinking sort of the opposite of the theme search, no results, is
No
theme search
results.
has results, but
Yeah, I'm cool with that change. Can we do actually? Is there does F6 work on literals?
Not
Shift
here because it
F6?
doesn't have the context. If you actually rename the HTML, IntelliJ might be smart enough to pick up that this file changed.
Oh, the file name. Right.
Yeah.
Renaming a file in name project. Meaning
Um,
this rename?
yes, but I want you to go back first. Can you
Yeah,
click
I'm wanting.
open the project? No, open the project window.
Okay.
Click on the gear icon at the top. And what we want is always select open file. Yep.
Oh,
So
so
what
now
that
if I did
does,
F6.
so what that does is if you click in the bottom, so you can get rid of that. So notice that because you're in the song searcher file, it's selected song searcher in the project window. If you go now to the top,
Right.
it basically synchronizes them. And I have no
Sweet.
idea why that's not the default.
That should always be. Yeah, I'm
I
with you
think
on
that
that.
should be the default. Yeah.
You know what I'm doing. 1 second.
Yep. So full null
Oh,
says,
I thought I was. Never mind.
what about Tidy First? Tidy First is great, but it's not a TDD book. Tidy First is useful, uh, as is most of Kent Beck's writing, but it is not a TDD book.
So now that it's synced up, oh, we got another question.
Go ahead.
Now that we're synced up with Shift F6,
Yes.
does okay, sweet. And it's got to search for references and search in comments and strings. We just be bold and do refactor, or do you want to preview?
Oh no, I'd never do preview, just refactor it.
Okay.
So let's see what it actually changed. So let's go. So it changed. It changed the controller would be my expectations. Let's go into the controller and see what it did. You can close that window.
Yeah.
So it did change it because it knows to look for the controller's return value that returns a view name. So it did rename that.
Now the test.
I doubt it changed the test, but let's go look at the tests. Yeah. So if we run it now, the test should fail, but we can just fix it. We don't necessarily have to run it to failure.
Sweet.
So are all our tests passing now?
All IO free were. I'm going to do all.
Yeah, let's do all because I think
Yep.
it's time for a commit.
Okay. Don't say anything. Oh, interesting. Oh, it's Alt. I did Control. I'm not used to Alt Shift as a. Now we want to do all.
Nothing is intuitive.
This is true.
It's all learned.
Yep. Cool. Oh, somebody failed. Did you expect that?
I suspected something would happen. Because we only have one template. So we were returning the correct view name, but we actually don't have the no results template.
Yeah.
So let's fix that.
You do a save as just to have another one, or would you?
You can do an F5 copy.
All right. Yep. Right folder. We're all good.
Yep.
We want the contents to be. different, do we?
I would probably say yes. Let's go back to the one that has results and um, or maybe the no results and change the title.
Does that work?
Works for me. Let's see
Okay.
if that passed the test. Yep, we're all good.
I'll pass. Sweet.
All right. So Dr. Nefarious asks, I'm interested in doing coding via Twitch. How do you do it without inviting people to dox you or to accidentally see any secrets? So I'm not sure what you mean by inviting people to dox you, but accidentally seeing secrets is a problem. So the only recommendation I have is be careful. And
And
you
have
will
dual monitors.
yes, it's you. I think it's really difficult very difficult to do it with one monitor. When I started streaming though, I was streaming from my laptop without an additional monitor, and you can do it. Uh, and so you just have to be very aware of when you're going to places that might have secrets. In which case you want to make sure you have a button that hides your screen. But other than that, just you're gonna have to be really careful, and you will reveal API keys, and you will then have to rotate them. That is a fact of the streamer's life. Is eventually you will reveal stuff.
I suspect, besides my loving the name Dr. Nefarious as a Twitch handle, I think the inviting people to dox you is more about, at least the way I'm interpreting it is, yeah, okay, they just said
Yeah,
it.
that well, if you're not interested in advertising your username on GitHub, I'd question why you're streaming. Because the whole point of streaming to me is that you're sharing information. If you don't want to reveal your GitHub username, um, you're going to really limit yourself in terms of what you can do. So one thing you can do though is you can change your GitHub user. You can create a new GitHub user account, and it's basically a throwaway. And so if you do have stuff where you want to keep that protected, create a new username. For your Windows username or your Mac username or whatever, create a new login account. If you want it, so those who are better disciplined than me is you create new logins for your computer that are specifically for streaming. So you don't have stuff that accidentally appears on desktop. Don't have accidentally stuff that appears in various windows. That you are dedicated. That account is dedicated to streaming. That is the best way to do it. And then you make sure all your logins and all your passwords and all that kind of stuff are oriented towards that. And so if you do want to be careful, that's the way to do it. Create a new GitHub user account. Create new user accounts for everything, because stuff like email addresses even is going to show up in the stream because you won't even notice it. And so having a separate login will help with most of that. I am not that concerned, but that's me. And so if you are more concerned, then that's what I would recommend. This is your alternative, is just have nothing in interest and a value, but that's yeah.
I just realized we blew past the 1 hour point. Should we take a 5?
Yeah, we can. There's a good opportunity for a break, because did we commit, or did we were just about to commit?
I think we were just about to.
Okay,
Yeah,
so let's
let's
bring
do
up
that
the screen
first.
and then we'll take a break.
Okay. Oh, we did a lot without committing.
Yes,
Whoops.
mostly renames though.
True.
Yeah. So let's take our break, and when we come back, we'll do the commit.
Okay, we'll do the commit afterwards. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
And we'll see you after our break. All right, and just a reminder, folks, a lot of the stuff that Mike and I are doing here on stream and that I do on stream when I'm solo streaming, we discuss and talk about in my Discord. So my Discord is a free community oriented towards Java development, TDD, data, domain-driven design, all that kind of good stuff. And so you can find that at ted.dev/discord. And if you want to know about me and how to contact me and find me on various social media like Mastodon or LinkedIn, you can go ahead and check out my about page, ted.dev/about. All right. Let's go write that commit comment.
Sounds good. Oh, one other thing I was going to say
Yeah.
for live coding, talked about OBS. We're actually using StreamYard for this, which I know
Right.
you're still playing around with.
StreamYard really, if you're going to use it, you got to pay for it, because unless you're happy with 720p resolution and some other limitations. If you're doing solo streaming, I don't think StreamYard, at least for me, doesn't provide what I want from solo streaming. I want a lot more control. I'm willing to give up some of that control reluctantly to make it easier on my guests. But StreamYard is just not as flexible as I'd like it to be.
So when you go solo,
Yeah.
do you use the OBS?
I use
OBS
OBS.
config? Okay.
Yeah. So I get more control over overlays because I wrote that code. And I get more control over the different views. I can bring in other images and other things that are difficult or annoying to do with StreamYard. Yeah. So, but OBS has a huge. The learning curve is steep. You can find good tutorials, and and it's also these days pretty rock solid, but there's a lot of terminology, and there's a lot of, you're pretty much the out of the box experience is it's a steep climb, whereas StreamYard is just you go. So if you don't want to spend time futzing with layouts, then you can find something like StreamYard, and that'll be just fine. But recognize that it's going to limit your resolution unless you pay for it, which for me, I did. So, all right.
Not sure what to say for this commit. Maybe introduced separation of two different result pages, or
Yeah.
ship it.
Ship it. Although technically it's not ship it.
Yeah.
So I think we can change this HTML page to basically say, instead of songs, it's basically no songs found in the line 10 there on the top.
Line 10. Oh, no songs found. That'll be an H1, and then the placeholder text.
And I think we don't need the empty search results H2 anymore, because I don't think we actually need that attribute anymore. So I think we can clean up a bit. So if we go to our other results page, here we know this page is only going to be shown when we have results, so we can just delete that line.
Now the tests will all still succeed, right?
They should all still pass, yeah.
Oops.
So for the TDD book I mentioned by Alan Miller, I actually skimmed through it. I actually know him, and it's good. It's got some good stuff in it, but it's more than just TDD. So there's a lot more stuff in there. Some of, two people are rarely going to agree on everything, but in general, I found it to be good enough for me to recommend.
Is it this book?
Yes. Yeah, so I put the link in there in the chat. All right. And since we no longer use it in the page, let's go back to our tests.
1 second.
Yeah.
I did something. Wanted to make sure they ran.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, they did. Cool. Okay.
So let's go to our controller test. And let's go to the next test below this one. And I think we can drop the assertion on line 37.
Do we have? Are we asserting that elsewhere? I thought.
I don't know if we were
No,
asserting
we're
it
not.
elsewhere.
Well, we'll find out when we get rid of it.
So yeah, so let's go into our controller and drop that attribute. And let's run all our tests.
Oop. Checking
I think
for
we were looking for it. That's fine. We can go ahead and then jump to that test. Yep, on line 50. So let's go remove that.
What did that test say? It says is equal to false. Ah, right.
So I wonder if we can combine the first test and this test.
In the same class?
I mean, combine the two test methods into just this one. So the first test in this class, yeah, that one. All it's doing is saying we get this view name if there are search results. But we're already doing that. We're just not checking the view name in that other test. So I think we can basically copy the assertion, put it in the other one that returns results there. Yeah. We'll need to capture the view name from 48. And now delete that space backslash there.
Yeah. Crazy fingers.
And now let's delete the first test because we don't need it anymore. Hey, we're deleting a test.
I was about to say that. Yay, we're deleting a test. Actually, is there that would be delete, right? Safe delete.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, I just wanted to try it.
So let's just run the IO free test because I think that's all we need to run at this point. Nice use of shortcuts. Thanks. All right. Let's commit this.
What do we say here?
So we updated the HTML to be specific to its page. So we can just say updated HTML contents. And the controller, really the main thing is we're no longer adding the empty results attribute.
Should we turn this into English rather than code?
No, because this is a technical thing. So
okay. Was it empty results? I don't remember what it was called.
I don't know. That's why I was going to say look at the diff. Empty search
results.
Yeah. Hey, Carl. Nice to see you. Are the exceptions defined in the test methods thrown by the code? No. I generally, and this is just my preference, I often add a throws exception so that I don't have to worry about it. If it does, it's part of my template. I've gone back and forth about it, but that way, if the code does throw an exception, I don't have to add anything to it, because I'm generally, if it does throw an exception and it's desired, I will have an assertion for it. If it doesn't and it throws an exception, well, that's going to be a failure anyway.
Good to commit.
Yep. All right. So let's run the application and just take a look.
Okay. Oh, nope. I need to have this, my little cheat sheet, shortcut cheat sheet in a window that's not covered. Oh, it's still running from before.
Yeah. Yeah. So my preference is I always want it to stop and rerun. I never want it to.
Yeah, I probably should have just taken that. Would you ever run it? Yeah, that's weird.
Would I ever run it without stopping? No, I wouldn't. So that's my preference. Maybe people do, but I don't. All right, let's go bring up the browser.
Do I still have one? 1 second.
Yeah, let's refresh that. All right, so that's our.
Wait a second, but isn't New Year's the only one we do have?
Yes.
Oh, that's because we haven't coded that yet.
Yeah.
So right now, because it doesn't say no songs, that's a successful page.
Right. So let's change the search to search to not find anything.
Yeah.
Right. And now we get the no songs found.
Yeah. Sweet. Next step is to
let's check Jira. Where are we?
I think the Jira, I think we need to add some stuff in here.
So we fixed that. So let's go ahead and we can now reclose that. Now I think we're here.
Yeah.
So let's go write some more HTML or Thymeleaf based HTML.
Yeah. Want to do another H2?
No, I think we're just going to show a list. So let's do the J word.
J word.
Did I say something? I don't know. Oh, just is that the word? Perhaps, yes. Please call me on that. I should have a just jar, just like people have swear jars. So let's oh, Jira. That's even worse. No, Jira is the joke.
Yeah, see, this is our Jira. This
is our Jira
file. Jira.txt.
That's our running gag in these series of episodes. So what we want to do is we want to iterate through a list, and so in the TH Thymeleaf world, what we're going to do is we'll do this as an unordered list, so a UL, not uppercase.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do uppercase, but
it's an old habit.
That's yeah. And what we want is to use a for. So let me go find that. One of these days I will publish my book. Let's see. So actually, let's start out without, we'll just use a P that's
What was the
repeated.
context of one of these days I will publish my book? Where did that come
So
from?
I have a book in progress that's been in progress for years, which is a cookbook for Thymeleaf, Thymeleaf
Oh,
recipes. Because one of the things that I find, so there's some good books on Thymeleaf. So Wim de Bois, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'll post the link in chat. Has a couple of books on Thymeleaf, but they are what I would consider sort of good depth, but not. I want to show a list of something. How do I do it? Just give me the code. um, and my long in progress book is exactly that. You want a for loop? Here. You want a for loop with radio buttons inside of a form? Here, because that's not straightforward at all. You want checkboxes instead of radio buttons? Here. Here's the code, and just copy and paste it. So yeah. So I have to go actually, since I haven't written a for each in Thymeleaf in more than a few weeks, I have to go and look at how to do it. So instead of an auto-ordered list, let's just do a bunch of paragraphs because that's slightly easier. So let's erase that. So we'll open up a p tag, and before we close the p tag, we'll do a th:each.
interesting. It's not auto completing. It did earlier.
That's weird.
There's something different.
We must have. Oh, I know what happened. We lost our.
Oh,
So
the namespace
yes,
disappeared.
because IntelliJ does this annoying thing where it cleans up unused namespaces, and I'm like, stop freaking doing that. So let's go copy it back from our has results page.
No, I think it's gone there too. It's gone
Sorry,
from
from our
both
no
of us.
results page. Oh, is it gone from there too?
It's gone from both. We deleted
Crud.
it in both. Remember?
All right. Well, then let's add it back here.
Okay.
At least it kept the space for it. So it is.
Where's it again? NS? No.
It's XML NS:/th. Yeah, we could look at the history and bring it back. Let's do that. Thank you, Carl.
Want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that. So if you just right click and local history, that's fine. And so go back a couple. Yeah, there we go. And then you can just push it over. That's much easier than typing it from scratch.
Actually,
let's
we
make sure we
this.
use it in this file, otherwise it will go away. So let's just put a p tag, and we'll just put a th:\text and just say temp, and then close the p tag. That's fine. All right. So let's continue on line 11. Yeah, there it goes. So the way this works is it's basically a for loop. So we give it two pieces of information. We give it what will become basically the local variable, the index into the loop, and we'll just call it song. And then a space and a colon and a space, because I like to put spaces around the colon. And then this is where it's going to pull information from the template, which is the $ curly brace. And inside there is going to be the attribute in which we put the results. So we'll have to go and look at our controller at the bottom, and we see there on line 30. And then we close the p tag. And We could just do a th text of song. So let's try that. So still inside
Within?
there. Yeah, still all the th stuff is an attribute of no,
Oh,
another
gotcha.
th tag. Yeah.
Th text.
And then just dollar $curly song. Yep.
Okay.
And let's just put a placeholder and just say placeholder song title. All right. Let's rerun the application.
Ah,
Where is your caps lock key that you keep hitting it? I'm
it's right.
curious.
Yeah, it's right above shift.
Oh, and so you're hitting it because you need to hit shift?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I have my on the Mac, I've got my caps lock mapped to holding equivalent to holding down every other meta key. So it's basically
Oh,
it's basically Command, Option, Control, Shift, and the reason why is for some global shortcuts. It's really handy to do that, and so I just do caps lock and a key, and it does stuff. All right, so let's find New Year's.
interesting.
um, oopsie.
So it's
But that
so
worked.
yeah, it worked.
That's
Didn't
not
do what we
quite what we
wanted it to do.
wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I forgot that we're putting song view objects in it. So what's inside of our song view? Maybe open that up at the bottom.
There it is.
Oh, it's just title. Okay. So what we can do is we can say where it says song, we can say song.title.
I presume as a method.
Yeah. So it's confusing because the Spring expression language is very flexible, and I don't know if for records it treats title without the parens. We could try
Hmm,
it, but we may as well call the method. Sort of doesn't matter.
right.
Both will work, but technically, if you leave out the parens, it's treated as a property, which means it looks for a getter. But since it's a record, I think that gets translated properly. I'll have to do some
Well,
research
we
on
could
that.
we could
But
make sure we work with the parens and then just undo it as a quick experiment and find out.
yeah, so let's just run the application.
Do not show this dialog in the future.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there actually is a way with dev. I don't know if it requires dev tools or not, but there's a way to not have to restart the app each time. You can do a hard reload, but restarting
Hmm,
is more reliable. All right,
there
there
we
we
go.
go.
It's working.
Yep,
It's funny seeing it in lowercase. It's like,
that's
is that
weird.
how you spell it? Yeah. It feels
Yeah.
odd. So technically, we got Jira 22 done.
Um, we do.
So I wouldn't mind showing multiple.
Then let's go into the application and load up some multiple.
Yeah, I think we do. We have.
In our test, we have another example.
Right. Let's see. Oh yeah, we got this one. Now in the application itself, we're just loading this one.
You can just copy and paste it from the top.
I'm not grokking. You mean copy this part?
Well, I was thinking copy the entire contents of that so you get the comma with it. Yeah, from there, expand.
Ah,
Yep. Copy that and then so I would have done an expand there as well. So you make
yeah, I know.
make sure you get the right number of parens. Now you can just paste.
I want to do it again.
Oh, we lost the theme. Refresh it. Boom.
Sweet. Awesome.
So let's commit. Let's close the Jira and then commit.
Yeah, let me do this.
Close Jira 22.
Oh. Okay.
It's pretty much that Jira. It's basically
Yeah, I know.
show matching results and yeah, generation motion. Yep. Do you want to put the ticket number in it? No. Jira 22.
Oh my God, no.
All right, so we're showing no results. We're showing a different page with no results. We're showing a page with matching results. What else?
What are you thinking? Like what to do next?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm also thinking, can we check off the entire section?
from a generating the endpoint perspective, yeah, don't you think?
Yeah. Yep.
So some things we could do.
I mean, we could look back at our stories if we wanted.
I was thinking to take, was it Carl or McGill? I think it was McGill's suggestion about pushing all the way to prod.
Yeah. So
that
what
might
do
be a
you
good
want
time for that.
Yeah. What do you?
Can we do it and still have it sort of? I guess it would still be not visible to
Yeah.
users unless somebody
Yeah.
knew the secret incantation.
Yeah. Unless they were watching the stream, they wouldn't know what endpoint to hit.
Yeah. So yeah, so that means we want to do a commit and push, and then maybe make sure I have, was it Koyabe? How do you pronounce that again?
Koyeb.
Koyab. Let me see if I have it.
Still up.
I'll do it this way. When you say it's still up, what did you mean?
Well, at least the Koyeb direct link is. I'm not sure if your .com.
Oh, I see.
Is forwarding correctly, because I don't remember what the I don't remember what the URL was.
Yeah, I've got to log back in. This is why 2 monitors are good.
Full Nofel asks, what about paging and sorting? What about paging and sorting? We'll get there. Those are forthcoming features. Right now, since we only have 2 songs and no way to add them, we're not going to worry about that. So right now, that's a Yagni. We don't need it right now, but we will need it at some point.
So I got Koyabe, I'm logged in. It looks like it's still running. So really just a commit and push.
Yeah.
Well, let me
You can just do a push. You don't have to do a commit and push unless you want. I mean, it doesn't matter since we're just changing the Jira.
yeah, I figure might as well.
Yep. Hey, do it to attitude. My database projects, paging curses and B trees. Please help. Why are you writing a database? Because if you're using B trees, that means you're writing a database, which is a fun project. I of like that's a project that's on my eternal someday go write one of these things. Yeah, cool. I've written key value stores. Those are fun. But you really need to get stuff like B trees and so on. There's always a tutorial. Yep.
Just hit push.
Just hit push.
Okay. Let's go watch. So actually, we could while we're waiting. Actually, I can't. Do you need to refresh this website, or does it keep you? Or does it, as it sees the push?
If you click on overview, that's probably what we want, because that'll show the activity there on the right, and where it's provisioning. So yeah, so basically it's doing the deployment of the one you just pushed.
Got it. Luckily, my my real name is my screen name, so I don't mind having Mike Rizzi here visible. I wish I had a Jitter Ted kind of cute handle, but
I don't know. It has its ups and downs.
I think the upside is you can have uniform stuff everywhere, right?
But that's true. Yeah,
like for me,
yeah, it's certainly unique. Absolutely, yes.
Like for Twitter, my handle is @Rizzi because I was on it so early I could just use my last name. But other environment, it's Mike Rizzi, and other I have to specify even more because there's more than one Mike Rizzi in the world.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go to. Haven't looked at the website in a while. Song thematic should look exactly the same. And then we still have.
Yeah, so the source code is not public.
It will be at some point.
At some point it might be. No promises made, but basically it is our it's Mike's find songs with a certain theme.
Nope, I thought I needed to flash.
So I haven't. I haven't like. Occasionally, I will post on Twitter if there's something where I have no other way of responding to someone. But I don't post stuff on Twitter. I am on Mastodon, and so if you want to find me there, then and elsewhere, ted.dev/about has all the links to Mastodon and LinkedIn and so on. All right, let's do the search.
Okay. Ooh. Did I do it right? Oh, wait a second. I wasn't checking to see it.
Did it finish deploying?
Oh, it says error in the deploy.
Uh-oh.
Interesting. Let's drive in, see what we can see what happened.
We probably need something to tell it that it's running under Java 21, because by default it does not run under Java 21.
I thought we had done that, but
I thought we did that too.
Yeah, let's go back and look. So was it
I forget what Koyab uses. They do it differently. And probably what we'll want to do is just package as a Docker file, so we can. So I finally figured out how to do that, and we'll probably want to add that, because it's very annoying, and it's kind of a bummer that both Koyeb and Railway and some of these other really nice, otherwise nice platform as a service, Java is not a first-class citizen. Java is like down on the list. In fact, on some of these types of platforms as a service, it doesn't even show up. So what do we do for that?
Well, we did this in system.properties, and then in the POM. Oh,
yeah, so we need to change that to that Java runtime version to 21. That's why. Because it's possible that when we did this, the original time, 21 was not supported, but now, as of December 18th, it's now supported. So Suiji, yes, we did get the Graal VM compiled version to run, but I did not deploy it because we didn't get to the part where we put it inside of a container, or at least put it inside of a Docker file. When I pair with Deshaun next time, that's on our list to do, because I would like to use up mainly I'd like a faster startup time so I can have the app sleep. So if you click on where it says provisioning, that link, that'll show its current status of building, so we can watch it as it happens. And so it's interesting that so Koyeb is using the Heroku build packs. Railway uses Nix packs, but they haven't merged the update to support recent Java. And I know they had some technical reason why they want to use Nix packs, but that's why Java's not ready there. And then there are the cloud native build packs from VMware, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I'm also not sure. When we did it, we had to put this property that felt like a workaround, and I'd like to understand why we had to specify that property. What was in our what's in Ensembler that Graal didn't like? Is there some kind of what was sort of being reflected or something? Yeah, it's still a little bit difficult to work with. Fullnoffel asks how to be sure that our application design respects CQRS principles. So CQRS is not a principle, and this is often what's confusing. Is CQRS is I don't know if I'd call it an architecture. Everybody calls everything an architecture, but it is a way of structuring and organizing your code in your system. So we can call it an architecture. So CQRS is command query responsibility segregation, which I wish had a different name, because it's all about having separate paths in your code for reads and for writes, and the reads are then eventually consistent with the writes. Often used with event sourcing, but it doesn't require you to use event sourcing. The other way around is probably likely. If you're going to use event sourcing, you're probably going to want some read models. CQS, which is the original principle of command query separation, all our domain objects should adhere to that principle, which is on your domain objects, commands are intention to change state, and queries request state and do not change state. And that comes from Bertrand Meyer in the OOSC book, OOSC. AR.
I would have gotten there eventually.
Yep.
That part. Yeah.
You can say from Meyer if you want. Meyer.
Oh,
And it's from the OOSC book, which is free. If you want a copy of the OOSC book, which is Object-Oriented Software Construction, Bertrand Meyer has made it available free as a
really? That's
PDF.
cool.
Yeah.
I think you're grabbing a link probably.
It is a big book. I think some of it's a little bit dated, but it's always interesting to read a book like that. But it is long. It's 1,300 pages. It is a little bit of an academic textbooky like content, but that's where it comes from.
That's good.
And I
See
have the direct link.
Do you? Okay, while you're doing that, I'm gonna check on starting Intis is unhealthy. That's interesting.
It always starts out as unhealthy until it actually is up and running, because it's not yet responding, so it's not healthy yet. Yeah, the Git plugin is nice. If you don't want to have to rely on Docker being available, then it's really useful. I haven't tried it because I don't build my Docker files. I don't build my Docker files in the continuous integration. I build them on the deployment. Yes, that sounds like a familiar GraalVM issue. I believe that was the one we hit, and it had a suggestion of a property. So do you know what that's about? If so, let us know. Yeah, so if we said we want CQRS, and how do we ensure that, you might be able to enforce some of that by having clear separation in whatever's writing into your database. So if you're using the repository pattern, making it clear that only the right side, not the right or left, the change state side has access to the transactional change data in your database. And you could enforce that using something like ArcUnit. You could probably go even further than that and make sure that there are no methods in things that could write to the database. I would wonder, though, there's a certain point of diminishing returns on that, because people can always write code to outwit static analyzers. But if you want to do it just so that you don't do it accidentally, you could probably use ArcUnit in combination with that. That status looks healthy.
Yep. So let's rerun this.
Woohoo!
All right. We've pushed to production.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. McGill, for the suggestion.
Oh, I'm not sure what's up with that, Suichi. I had Deshaun walk me through that stuff, so pair with Deshaun. He's always open for pairing. So was that a 3-2? So that was a 3-2-1 regression, I guess. That's interesting. Yeah, you can post a link. Unlike YouTube, Twitch allows you to post links. JQ Assistant, that feels a bit lower level than something like ArcUnit. ArcUnit is really nice because it's much higher level and has lots of good built-in rules. I always thought JQ Assistant was a lower level kind of thing to build stuff from scratch. So the one that enforces hexagonal architecture, I don't think we have it in this project yet, but basically it uses ArcUnit. So if you look at my Ensembler project, I do have ArcUnit there. I'll check out that issue. Cool. So it wasn't just me. One weird thing is when I was pairing with Deshaun, we ran into this Docker thing for the Docker Compose. Not I don't know if you would call it a plugin, but the Docker Compose support, and it was broken for both of us. And recently, it just started working, and I didn't change anything. And that's one of those. What got fixed is always a concern. But all right. So I know we're a little over our time for today.
I'm okay with that.
Let's figure out. So we pushed to production. Yay.
Yep, we did.
Um, what do we want to plan out anything for next time?
Yeah, you could do that.
Well, technically, it's our second push to production.
True.
we pushed new behavior to production.
Right. Yeah. First push of behavior.
Yeah.
That's the Italian spelling. There we go.
So I was just looking at the link that Napajagas, and by the way, I'm sorry, I don't know how you want me to pronounce your username, but I was just looking at what was going on here. And so it looks like it's a Spring security problem, not a core Spring framework problem. And hey, it's Tramstars. You're late. So we've got searches for song with one theme. So we could continue sort of on the read side, as it were, or the query side, and search for multiple themes, or we could switch to the right side, the change state side, and look at adding songs. Or we could look at persistence. So I think those are the three directions we could go next.
I would say one of these two. I'm kind of leaning towards this because then the more we do that, it'll possibly inform persistence. Actually, the other thing that's interesting is the attributes for, because right now we're just doing song title, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have a lot of other attributes.
Yes.
At what point do we pull those in? Well,
Um,
thinnest vertical slice would be do adding songs, do persistence, then start adding attributes. If we wanted to get fully end to end.
yes.
I'm thinking out loud here, but
yeah. So the only downside to delaying persistence is again sort of how much do we want that to influence the architecture of the application. So right now, the entire song database is in memory,
right.
And we talked about this, and it would be perfectly fine to do that forever.
Right.
But that means we're writing, in a sense, the indexing code, but it will be much faster. Whether it's noticeably faster is a separate question. But if we push some of that to the database, that will have an effect on things like when we search for multiple themes. Do we do that in memory, or do we rely on the database to do that?
That could be interesting experiment we could do when we at that, somewhere around that point. We have enough data to see if it's perceptibly different.
Yeah, I wouldn't be thinking about it necessarily from a performance standpoint, although it might be measurable, but I doubt it. It'll be more how much do we want to write that code, and how much can we push off to something else, and it would be totally valid either way.
Right. So I think somebody in the chat was saying doing adding and persistence together versus as two separate approaches?
Well, so there's adding songs from a UI from the UI, which is I think what you mean by adding songs.
Yeah.
Then there is persistence, which would require us to have internal code to add songs to persistence, but would not require the UI.
Right.
Right, because when we start up, so like there on the bottom right in Song Themes application, we're creating the song searcher and pre-populating it with some songs. If we were using persistence, we'd have to push that into, we basically have to store that in persistence, unless it was already there, in which case we would do it. And that would only be a bootstrapping. We probably wouldn't pre-populate anything from our application. We don't have to decide now.
Sounds good. I just got a call from, or my
Yeah.
son is calling, and I got the ringer turned off. And but
So
yeah,
let's leave it.
Yeah, let's brainstorm between now and then.
Yep.
Or let it mull.
Yes,
Mull
we'll let
it
it
mull?
mull. Yep.
Marinate.
Marinate, right? All right. So that's all for episode 5. Thanks everyone for joining, and as always, thanks for the great conversations in chat.
Yeah.
Once Mike and I figure out the schedule for our next episodes, we'll announce that. Again, best place to find that information if you want to know before we actually start is always on my Discord, because I announce it there, and I'll announce the schedule once we start planning it, and I give you at least a little bit of a heads up when we're going to go live. So that's the place to be.
Thanks everyone.
All right. So thanks everyone. And if we don't see you before the new year, then have a good new year. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.